Welcome to Israel Unveiled. Today, I want to share with you about one of the most amazing places to see in Israel. It's actually one of my top 3 places, and it's only been discovered 16 years ago. I first heard about it while attending the National Religious Broadcasters Conference a few years ago. I had just finished participating on a panel on one of the many breakouts when I was introduced to a young priest. I don't remember his name, unfortunately, but I do remember what he said to me. He'd heard that I was part of a global ministry that brought groups to Israel every year. And so he was so excited to talk to me. And he said that I had to include Magdala in my itinerary. Now, I hadn't heard of Magdala, so he went on to explain the incredible story about a discovery that involved one of the most beloved of Jesus' followers, Mary of Magdala. Now, I didn't recognize Mary of Magdala. I knew her as Mary Magdalene. She had experienced a miraculous healing through the ministry of Jesus, and she became a devoted follower of him, and she supported his ministry. In all 4 Gospels, there's a record that she was present at the crucifixion, that she, on Easter morning, she went to visit the tomb. And in John's Gospel, he writes, she encountered the risen Lord, and he speaks to her. So Mary was a woman who had a prominent place in the Gospels. And in all the times that I had visited Israel, I'd never heard about excavations surrounding Mary of Magdala. So I was really interested, and I wanted to hear the whole story. And so he told me that in 2005, Mexican-born Catholic priest, Father Juan Solana, was in Israel, and he was looking to find a place where he could build affordable hotel for pilgrims who wanted to come to the Holy Land. And in particular, he was looking around the Sea of Galilee to find a plot of land, because so much of Jesus' ministry was located in that area. The young priest went on to tell me that through generous supporters, Father Solana was able to purchase land right on the Sea of Galilee. And by 2009, all of the permits for building were approved, and he could begin building his reasonably priced hotel for pilgrims. So they started laying the foundation, but then everything unexpectedly ground to a halt, because less than 12 inches below the soil, ruins of what would be identified as the remains of a 1st century synagogue was found. And so the Israel Antiquities Authority needed to come, and they had to survey the land before any construction could continue. So it was no longer just a building site. Now it was an important archaeological excavation site. And I mean, what an amazing story. It was the first time a contemporary synagogue of Christ had been found by the Sea of Galilee. And I read that in one of the journals about it. And it is the oldest of the synagogues found in the Galilee area. I later read that archaeologists believed it is one of the most significant finds in the past 50 years. It's probably actually only matched by the recently excavated ancient Pilgrim Road. That was it was discovered in 2004, and it's a road that leads from the Pool of Siloam in David City, and it follows underneath an Arab neighborhood of Silwan, and that pilgrim road leads right to the Temple Mount area. Now, that in alone is an incredible story, and I will do a podcast in the future about it. So now in Magdala, here was a prosperous first century fishing and trade center. There was an active Jewish community at the time of Jesus. Just 30 years later, life of Magdala would end around 70 AD when the Romans came to in force to destroy a Jewish rebellion. And so Magdala then really ceased to exist and function, and its remains would not be discovered for another 1,950 years later. And in 2014, that's 5 years after the initial archaeological discovery that had stopped all building, it opened for tourists to visit the excavations. So I knew that aglow after listening to this young priest. I mean, we had to include this in our next trip to Israel, and we did. Magdala is 6 miles south of Capernaum, the fishing town where Peter lived, and Jesus' public ministry was centered there in the Galilee area. It was the area where Jesus called the 12 apostles. He was baptized nearby where the Jordan River flows into the Sea of Galilee. So did Jesus ever visit Magdala? Well, there's nothing written that confirms it, but neither is there reason to think that he didn't visit that synagogue in that area. You know, after all, he preached in the synagogues on the Sabbath around the Sea of Galilee. So the next year, on our ministry trip, we made sure to see Magdala. And I have to tell you, it was everything and more than I expected. There was excavation going on, and I took this video as we entered Magdala. We began the tour walking to the incredible remains of the first century synagogue. We immediately noticed the beautiful patterned tiles that are shown here in the picture. It was surprising that after 2,000 years, so much of the pattern remained intact. The colors on the mosaic wall tiles that were on the walls shown in this photo were still also vivid. The colors, incredible. I could only imagine how beautiful it had been for that first century place of worship. But our focus was drawn to the stone in the middle of the synagogue, and it wasn't huge. It's only about a foot tall. And I later read that one archaeologist suggested that a pedestal probably rested up on it, and that would have provided a place for the Torah scroll to be opened and read. So if Jesus did indeed come to this synagogue so close to where he ministered, he would have been invited as a guest to read from the scrolls right on that stone. Our guide told us that all the four sides and the top is carved with symbols to bring to mind the great temple in Jerusalem. One side of it pictures a menorah with a jar on each side. Some think it might have represented oil and wine. On other sides are various symbols that represented the temple in Jerusalem. Some scholars believe that the Magdala Stone, and that's what it's called, is referred to as the Magdala Stone, represented the lesser temple for people who lived so far from Jerusalem and probably would never get an opportunity to worship at the temple in Jerusalem. So after we took all our pictures, and I took many of them, our group moved on. Now, just kind of as a point of interest, as of 2025, this year, only 10% of that land has actually been excavated. And so I realized on that first visit that every year when I would come back and bring a group, there would be even more to see. The same year that Magdala opened, a new church was consecrated, and the name of the church was called Duke un Altum. It means launch into the deep, and that's from Luke. It's the reference of Luke 5:4 when Jesus told Peter to put out into the deep. And once again, with the completion of that incredible church, worship once again began in Magdala. On our short walk to the church, we saw more excavations that were taking place. In the coming years, those excavations would uncover 4 ritual baths that were used it was described as advanced plumbing of its time. Those excavations would reveal streets, paved streets that ran through the marketplace, and there were shops. And they found that Magdala had pools of breeding fish and also a facility to dry fish. So there was, and still continues to be, so much to see and to learn. The church itself overlooks the Sea of Galilee. Father Solana wanted it to honor the preaching and the miracles of Jesus, and in particular, he wanted to pay respects to the women that had a place in the ministry of Jesus. And he accomplished it in a wonderful way. As I entered that beautiful atrium of the church, I noticed right away that there were 8 pillars. So our guide told us, he said, go and look carefully at each one. And each one I could see of the 7 of the 8 had the name of a woman carved into it. And we were told that it was to give honor for the help and the ministry that each one of those women gave to Jesus' ministry. You know, sometimes we forget that many traveled with him. We know that the names of the apostles, but how many others were traveling with him? The 8th pillar was different. It was different from all the others because there was no name on it. That pillar intentionally remained that way because our guide said it was to represent the names of all women who faithfully follow Jesus and will continue to follow him through all the years past, years present, and years to come. So I went right over to it and I put my hand on the pillar and I prayed and I wanted to affirm that I wanted to be one of those women who would forever follow Jesus. In the atrium, we took a few minutes to sing some worship songs. Oh, the acoustics. Oh my goodness. The acoustics in that hall are amazing. The sound, it echoes and it guarantees, honestly, to send chills down your spine. It was powerful. And I knew that every time I brought a group to Magdala, I would be sure when we came into the atrium and they had an opportunity to look around that we would spend a few minutes just worshiping. It had to happen. They had to experience what I was experiencing. The photo that I'm showing leads into the sanctuary from that atrium. The altar overlooking the Sea of Galilee is in the shape of a fishing boat of the first century. It's just amazing, all the little details. And once we were there, I just had to sit, and everyone else did too, just had to sit quietly and just to take it all in. Before going to the lower level, everyone stopped to view each of the 4 chapels that are located just off the atrium. The mosaics in each of them, of those chapels, depicts the ministry of Jesus on the Sea of Galilee. And I was able to take just 2 pictures of 2 of those chapels. Again, beautiful. The entire church is really filled with so much imagery. I realized that Father Solana had intended for people to want to linger a while. Not just come in, not just to see it as a sight, but actually to linger. But there was one more thing to see. So our group took the stairs to a chapel that was below ground level. We were actually at the bedrock of the town, the ancient town of Magdala. We walked into a chapel, and we were faced with a breathtaking, massive painting that depicted the woman who pressed through the crowds to touch the hem of Jesus' garment for her healing. It took your breath away. No other way to describe it. And around that chapel, there was seating along each side of the 4 sides, and here people could sit again and just pause and reflect. I have to tell you, I loved the perspective that the artist took in that incredible presentation. There were no faces. It just so portrayed an act of desperation that would lead to a miracle. What a way. What a profound way to end our tour of Magdala. I can't even begin to imagine what treasures lie beneath the other 90% of the area yet to be excavated. But I want to say to you, if you ever have an opportunity to travel to Israel, or if you're planning to once again tour the country, you do not want to miss Magdala in your itinerary. You won't be disappointed. If you'd like to see more about Magdala, there is an excellent 27-minute video that I found on YouTube, and it's by TBN's Eric Steckelbeck. Excellent. So go on YouTube and you can once again see a fabulous video of Magdala as he walks that site. I hope you'll join me again on my podcast. And if you enjoyed this one, that I just would ask that you would click like and share. And also, if you'd like to see more podcasts like this, that you would click subscribe. Thank you so much for joining me today. Be blessed and shalom.